Today you're going to learn how to compress the golf ball. But before you get into that, we need to understand a couple of things. And that being, what is compression and how to create it. But really quick, for those of you who are new here, I'm James. I'm a full-time golf instructor who teaches over 2,000 lessons a year on average to golfers like you who are looking to improve their golf game. So let's start with what is compression. The way I describe it is this. Compression is the ability to reduce the amount of backspin put on the golf ball the moment of impact. Think about it. If you were trying to create backspin on a particular shot, you wouldn't really be thinking about compressing it. So how do we create compression? Well, the technical way is defined by the term spin loft. And spin loft is calculated from this formula: angle of attack minus dynamic loft. Let me explain what that means. Angle of attack meaning the angle at which the club ascends or descends into the ball measured at impact. And dynamic loft meaning the amount of loft on the club the moment of impact. The higher the spin loft, the higher the backspin. So to create compression, we need to minimize spin loft. So how do we make this happen in your golf swing? So first, I'm going to explain to you two things that I see most common in my students' swings that doesn't allow them to compress the ball and get that nice contact that they're in search of. If you feel like you're struggling with these two things, I'm going to give you a couple of drills that I personally use to help correct this. And if you stay till the end of the video, I'm going to share a student of mine who used these drills in order to correct his contact and start really compressing the golf ball. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing we need to talk about is your lead wrist. And it's the lead wrist that's responsible for either adding loft or decreasing loft. Let me explain. So a lot of the times when you're adding loft through impact, this lead wrist will be cupped, something like this. And what we call that is extension of that lead wrist. This not only adds loft to the club face, but also opens the club face. And we know when we add loft through impact, we're increasing spin loft, adding more spin to the ball, and reducing compression and decreasing our distance. So instead of extending the lead wrist, we need to focus on getting away from that, and we need to start flexing or bowing the lead wrist. This will help keep the handle ahead of the club head and reduce loft and also square the club face more. So I'm going to hit two shots here, one where I add loft at impact and one where I de-loft the club and actually compress the ball. And we'll be able to see on the screen up here my angle of attack, my dynamic loft, and the spin loft, and how that influences the backspin and distance of the shot. Okay, so to calculate spin loft, once again, we take the dynamic loft, subtract the angle of attack, which is represented in this case because we hit an iron. So the angle of attack was down, which would represent a negative number. So bringing you back to math class, anytime you subtract a negative number, it turns into a positive. So we are going to add and increase spin loft. Luckily, SkyTrack already does this for us, showing us that our spin loft was 40 degrees, and we can see that the backspin on this shot was very high for a 7-iron, and the stock distance for my 7-iron is way further than what is shown here on the screen. So in this next example, you'll see when I de-loft the club that the dynamic loft is going to be lower, therefore the spin loft will automatically be lower, and we should get some more distance and some lower backspin. Okay, so right off the bat we can see the dynamic loft is about 10 degrees lower, and our angle of attack was roughly the same, but because the dynamic loft was 10 degrees lower, so was our spin loft. So you can see that more numbers are green, which is great, always a good sign. Backspin is in the optimal range, and if you look at the distance, it is roughly 20 to 25 yards further in both carry and total distance. Okay, so here's a drill to help you prevent that lead wrist from going into extension. Take an alignment stick and your club and you want to kind of match it up to the shaft about halfway or so. The alignment stick will go underneath your left arm. You're gonna take your grip, and if you have a tendency to flip early or release too early, causing again that left wrist to go into extension, the alignment stick's gonna hit you in your side, and it's not gonna feel good. The objective of the drill is to prevent that. You want to try to keep the alignment stick away from the body. You don't need to force the release. If you can do this, you can see how this lead wrist would actually maintain a flexed position or a bowed wrist condition, de-lofting the club face, allowing us to compress the ball and hit the ball further. So hopefully the timing of the release is the only thing that you need to practice. However, there is another overlooked topic that causes the same thing to occur at impact, and that is early extension, which is when the hips tend to extend out towards the ball too soon in the downswing. Without you realizing it, if you struggle with this, the hips are going this way towards the ball, the upper body is bending back away from the ball. So technically you are getting further away from the ground and from the ball. When that happens, the only way to get to the ball is to release this club. So early extension can also lead to an early release, causing this wrist to get too cupped and take away from your chances of compressing the ball. So a drill to fix this is something like this. Take an alignment stick, place it behind you, either at an angle or it could be straight up and down. And when you take your address position, you want to make sure that your tailbone is just resting up against that. And if you early extend, you'll find that you move away from it. The objective of this drill would be to push the hips back into your alignment stick, or if you're using a noodle, to avoid the early extension and properly rotate and release through the ball, giving you a better chance of getting more compression on the golf ball and more distance. So I hope that all makes sense to you guys. If you got some value out of today's video, please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Share it with some friends, even if you know they struggle with the same problem. Don't be selfish. And that's it for this one. I'll catch you on the next one, guys. Peace.